Brain control technology. It may sound like science fiction, but the U.S. is accusing China of developing it for military use. NTD's Iris Tao has more.
The U.S. is blacklisting dozens of Chinese research institutes over human rights violations. The Commerce Department on Thursday said is adding to its export blacklist China's Academy of Military Medical Sciences and its 11 research institutes. It alleges they're using biotechnology to support Chinese military end uses and end users, to include purported brain control weaponry. While the agency did not elaborate on the described brain control weapons, a senior U.S. official told the Financial Times that Beijing is trying to use emerging biotechnologies to modernize its army. This includes research on gene editing, human performance enhancement, and brain-machine interfaces. Announcing the latest sanctions, Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo says while biotechnology can save lives, unfortunately, the PRC is choosing to use these technologies to pursue control over its people and its repression of members of ethnic and religious minority groups. The Thursday move will bar American companies from selling components to these entities without a license, and this is only a part of a larger wave of sanctions coming at Beijing.
I think it would be shocking to all of us to know that even as I stand here now, there are products in this very chamber in the Senate that were touched by and made by the hands of slaves. It is a horrifying human rights situation.
That was Senator Marco Rubio speaking Wednesday. The U.S. Senate is giving final approval to a bill that bans all imports from China's Xinjiang region, unless businesses can prove they were produced without forced labor. And the Treasury announced today that it is adding commercial drone maker DJI to its blacklist. This for helping the communist regime surveil Uyghurs and others in China. DJI is the world's largest commercial drone maker. Iris Tao, NTD News.
The government wants to solidify the UK's position as a global cyberpower, as set out in a new policy paper. The National Cyber Strategy seeks to open up access to high-skill, high-priority jobs. Cyber Explorers, a new online training platform, will teach young people cyber skills in the classroom, and a new royal charter will improve careers so that the cyber workforce can match other professional occupations like engineering. The government sets out to invest £2.6 billion over the next 3 years to support these plans. Cabinet Office Minister Steve Barclay said a core aim is to strengthen the UK's hand in critical cyber technologies, reducing reliance on regimes that do not share our values. It follows the controversy over the government's decision to allow the Chinese tech giant Huawei access to the UK's 5G network, only to reverse it following pressure from the Trump administration. Huawei 5G infrastructure will be completely removed from the UK's 5G network by 2027. The Cyber Strategy paper says how China evolves in the next decade will probably be the single biggest driver of the UK's future cybersecurity. The paper also noted that many organised crime gangs launching ransomware attacks against Western targets are based in Russia, and that Chinese state-backed actors were behind cyber attacks affecting over 250,000 servers worldwide. A new body, the National Laboratory for Operational Technology Security, is set up to make sure that the UK is built on the highest levels of cyber resilience. Home Secretary Priti Patel said this strategy will significantly improve the government's response to the ever-changing threat from cybercrime.
And Facebook owner Meta is calling out half a dozen private surveillance companies for hacking or other abuses. It's accusing them of collectively targeting about 50,000 people across Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. Eve Johnson reports.
Meta is cracking down on so-called cyber mercenaries. On Thursday, the owner of Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp said it's banned 7 private surveillance companies from its platforms and suspended 1,500 related accounts, most of them fake. Among them, a European company called Cytrox and Israeli firms Cobwebs Technologies, and also Black Cube, which deployed spies on behalf of disgraced Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein. Meta said it sent alerts to 50,000 people, telling them they may have been targeted. The company accuses the 7 surveillance firms of hacking or using fake profiles to trick users into revealing private data. In a statement, Black Cube said it did not undertake any phishing or hacking, while Cobweb said it drew on open sources and that its products, quote, are not intrusive by any means. Other firms named could not be immediately reached for comment.
And Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is moving to take back control of the state's massive pension fund. That's from the hands of private asset managers who invest part of the money in communist China. Here's more.
Governor Ron DeSantis said the move looks to protect the state's investment. He cited the non-transparent nature of Chinese companies and their potential involvement in human rights abuses. Those problems mainly deal with Beijing directly, but are also linked to Chinese companies. That's because many of them work with Chinese police and the country's military system. The Florida governor ordered the state's retirement system to check how much investment it has poured into Chinese companies. He's also revoked voting authority on those decisions from outside fund managers. In a statement, DeSantis said, "If you look at how these major companies behave when faced with Chinese disapproval, they censor what the CCP tells them to censor, and we see groveling apologies."
I think that the U.S. As a whole should be disentangling from China, but certainly our investment should be disentangling.
Florida currently has the 4th largest state retirement system in the U.S. It holds more than $200 billion in assets.
I think what I'd like is, one, to have the SBA survey the investments that are currently being done. I know most of our stuff, we're probably very little in China compared to where some other states are, but still, I think it's important that people know that. And then when the legislature comes back, they can make potentially statutory changes to say that this Communist Party of China, that's not a vehicle that we want to be entangled with.
In recent years, the federal government has also tightened the rules for investing in Chinese companies deemed suspicious. The Treasury Department keeps a blacklist of companies that it says support China's military, and American investors are banned from buying those stocks. Even so, a lot of American savings end up funding Chinese companies through U.S. state and pension funds. According to U.S. government data, the state of California has poured more than $8.4 billion into Chinese securities since 1992. That's followed by the Alaska Permanent Fund Corp. With more than $2 billion and the Teacher Retirement System of Texas with more than $1.1 billion. Other U.S. states with major investment sunk into China include New York, New Jersey, Colorado, Wisconsin, Kentucky, and Ohio, among others.
But it seems China's economy continues to slow, rattled by real estate and energy, and could be affecting the steel industry next. NTD's Olin Richards reports.
China's economy is on shaky ground. It's still reeling from a real estate collapse, an issue now spreading into other sectors. The steel industry may be next in line and is seeing massive drops in demand. That's a far cry from earlier this year when steel saw record highs. It was one of the country's best performers in the first 3 quarters of the year. China's 28 major listed steel mills garnered over $16 billion. That's up over 150% year on year. But a sharp demand drop has followed since then. 2 factors are causing it: easing demand and lower costs for raw materials. The steel industry is tied closely to China's economic success. That's because construction is a key indicator of health for its economy. And ever since a slew of real estate companies started floundering, the steel industry has felt the effects. The most well-known case is Evergrande, a property development giant that recently defaulted. But it's not just steel. Other areas of construction are also seeing demand drops, from cement to excavators, even refrigerators. The dwindling property market is driving those trends too. The final quarter of 2021 saw a 5-year high in unsold housing stock. That's in China's 100 biggest cities in the month of November. And with no reversal in sight, that property market is expected to keep the decline going in the coming year. Arlene Richards, NTD News.